All right, let's take you live to Cape Town now, where we find my colleague, eNCA anchor Bhengu-Motsiri. He is covering the State of the Nation address. Bhengu, we heard from Moloto Mothapo, the parliamentary spokesperson, that they're expecting delegates to arrive from around 4 p.m. But you've been speaking to a few ministers already. What have they been telling you?
Good afternoon, Masiko. Welcome back here to our new vantage position, just in front of the City Hall, well, it is Parliament, of course, for today's purposes. This whole precinct is now Parliament. A number of interesting discussions indeed. We heard a little bit earlier, Masiko. I spoke to Ronald Lamola, for example, who's a Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, about some aspects that affect his area specifically that have come up in the review that we've all received in the media over the last 24 to 48 hours from government, saying this is what Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa promised you last year in February, and this is the state of play. This is the status. There we've made progress and there we have not made progress. So for Ronald Lamola first, Masiko, if you allow me, I asked him about corruption, because, you know, the Justice Department has to make sure, for example, that certain arms of government are well resourced in terms of funding and otherwise in terms of human capital to tackle all the recommendations that have come out of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry by the then Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, now the new Chief Justice of the Republic. So I asked him about that, and he seems confident that progress is being made. There are gaps, of course, because not everything is a tick on that review that we've received around issues of corruption. But he also seemed confident, that's Ronald Lamola, that whatever we will hear today, this evening, from President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa will give us some hope. He's confident that things are going to be sorted out. I asked him about overcrowding in our prisons, because while you're tackling crime, the correctional service system also has to work in terms of its own mandate, and there are lots and lots of challenges there, as we know, in our prisons. And I also interviewed Dr. Bladen Zimande Umpepetwa. He's of course in charge of higher education in this country and technology. And Masiko, I had to ask him how he's feeling. And I guess he would be heartbroken about what's happening in terms of crime in our institutions of higher learning. For example, Justin Togozo Kaba being killed allegedly by an ex-boyfriend the other day, TUT. And he said 10% of all GBV cases in our country, sadly, tragically, take place in institutions of higher learning. And he's got a plan. One part of his plan is to launch this big campaign in our universities, our colleges, our tertiary institutions against GBV. And he hopes that the president as well tonight will reassure women of our country that a government is taking seriously the business of protecting them, keeping them safe and protected wherever they work, they walk, and wherever they live. It's a very important aspect there. But more importantly, he said partnership has to be a reality now for government. Government on its own cannot sort out all the problems. While they are determined and serious about really tackling the issues head on with implementable action, they want the private sector on board. For example, he would approach them in terms of the tertiary institutions in the fight against gender-based violence, in the attack, the ongoing epidemic against our young women in our institutions of higher learning. He would also, he said importantly, talk to the communities in those surrounding those areas, because he believes the partnership that we need going forward in the country is between the public sector, which is government, and in all its facets, and it's a private sector of business is also in all its facets, plus us ordinary citizens as members of the community. So it's very important to understand that there are a number of issues, but we don't know, Masiko, what we are going to be hearing from the president. But all we are looking for now is hope. You know, many citizens telling us on our road down here since Tuesday, many of them telling us that we need action. We don't need another meeting. We don't need another conference. We don't need another summit. We just want to hear from our president, what is government going to do? You know, and they've just had a Lekgotla as cabinet, and Bhengu-Motsiri telling me that he's confident coming out of that Lekgotla that we're going to see some boldness that the president will demonstrate that it is time to take a bold action. But of course, before the cabinet Lekgotla met, we had the ANC Lekgotla, which is a governing party, post its 55th national conference in December and January. Remember, it was broken up into two parts. It was not finished in December. It carried over to January the 5th up to the 8th, when the ANC was celebrating its birthday. I'm joined now by Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri, who is the new ANC national spokesperson. I'm saying the new because I'm used to having speaking right up to December to your comrade and colleague Pule Mabe. Welcome to eNCA. And thank you very much for talking to us. Yeah. So from the ANC perspective, what are you hoping the South Africans will hear tonight from your president in his capacity as the head of state, as the commander-in-chief of the Republic?
You've just, in your commentary just now, spoke about hoping for boldness. And we are hoping for boldness. And, you know, the pain points for the people of South Africa are shared by the ANC. So we are looking for a strong pitch. We're hoping for a strong tone. We're hoping for boldness in terms of tackling some of the urgent challenges that our country is facing, including, of course, the global world.
I'll ask you what I asked earlier to Ronald Lamula and Blade Nzimande earlier. In the Lekgotla of cabinet, but you in the Lekgotla of the ANC, that boldness, was it accompanied in those deliberations of the Lekgotla of the ANC that it's time to take urgent action to address many of these challenges, because they are not new? I mean, we've had a power problem for the last 15 years. It's got worse and worse. Unemployment has been rising, and the bulk of the unemployed are young South Africans. It's not a new phenomenon. Actually, the rate of unemployment has been going up almost all the time. Was there a sense at the ANC's Lekgotla that it's time for urgent action as a governing party to change things in real terms for the better?
Evidence of that sense of urgency and demonstrating our appreciation of a sense of crisis in some parts related to the economy, related to the energy crisis. We have come out and said we are putting in place a 15-month, three-phased plan of action, which we are going to be monitoring closely every single month. We want to see a sense of change in areas where we have the capacity as the government to activate faster implementation. But we've also emphasized the fact that we need to do lots of compacting, social compacting, and I'm sure
that's taking some time, I think. Would you be worried as the ANC? Because even in the government's own review that's been distributed to us in the media over the last two days to yesterday, the president ticking off what he had promised last year at the State of the Nation address and what's been achieved. The issue of social cohesion still, it was supposed to be done in 100 days. It's still proving to be a little bit stubborn.
So I think the emphasis once more is that there is no way government can fulfill all of its obligations unless there is a working together with the private sector, with the people of South Africa in their organized manner, whether it's civil society and so on. And so we still say that undergirding all of the interventions that we're going to be rolling out in the next 15 months, it must be premised on the need for us to work together, because if we look to government alone, we're really going to be letting the people of South Africa down and over-promising without a partnership with the people.
Yeah, Mahlengi, that's the message I also got from Dr. Nzimande. But he was talking now about a three-way partnership, as you've said. Yes. The public sector being government in all its formations, the private sector, that's small business, medium business, big business in all its facets, and community in terms of how they are organized and people taking part. So it's like you are proposing as a governing party a new tripartite partnership.
It's essentially, that's what it is. But that which government must do as government, our expectation coming out of
and we
SONA,
need to hold the government accountable.
Exactly. So this is not taking away, and this is not undoing the obligations on government to do what government has got to do in terms of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, as well as the laws and policies of our country.
Yeah, you must be aware, Mahlengi, that many people have lost trust in the governing party, and some of them have expressed it in different ways, and that's been because of challenging problems, particularly state capture as a recent example. How do you as the ANC think you can address that and do away with that deficit, especially because if you want community to play a role as a governing party in assisting in solving some of the problems we're facing as a country, like crime and corruption and otherwise, you want to trust them as well with some level of responsibility.
Yes, I would really say to South Africans, we have seen some of these problems in other democracies, the Western as well as in our own continent. But what the ANC and ANC-led government has not done has been to brush these things under the carpet. The reason why we have we had the Zondo Commission, the reason why we have the SIU doing the things that it is doing to chase any person that is stolen from the public is precisely because it's a commitment to addressing malfeasance in whatever form it manifests. And we are going to be looking to the President and the SONA to pronounce further measures to strengthen the work of law enforcement, particularly in relation to the issues related to the trust deficits that you are referring to, Braden.
Yeah, because as the governing party, people also look to you for leadership, yes. But communities can also take a leadership role, but they need to know that they can trust the governing party. Now, I'm going to ask you now from a gender-based violence matter, because it's still very much with us. I mean, just the other day, as I was saying to my colleague Masiho Rahlaga just now, highlighting some of the aspects of Ronald Lamula's interview that I did with him, was and Dr. Bladen Zimani, is the issue of GBV. It's just not going away. It's a stubbornly sticking stain of shame on our national land. It's a real pity. Just now a young student was killed allegedly by a boyfriend at TUT in Togozo Qaba. From an ANC perspective, did you zoom in on that as well in the Lekgotla? And should women of South Africa look forward to hearing a more positive and bolder message from the President tonight?
You know, one of the things, Braden, and you're touching some of us in our studio when you speak about that, speaking as a gender activist as well. One of the things that the ANC has said is that we are going back to becoming that old organization, a campaigning and organizing ANC. That means visibly reconnecting with communities in every corner of our country. And the gender-based violence and femicide in South Africa is going to be one of those things around which we're going to be campaigning, to ensure that the law plays its role when the law has to play its role. You know, timeous prosecution once the necessary investigations are done, providing support to survivors of gender-based violence. I think that's an area that we've really taken up as an organization. We just need to ensure that there's better alignment of the work as an organization with the work that is done by the state. So I would say, yes, that's an area of priority.
Yeah. Besides mobilizing, are you going to be putting pressure on government to improve resources in the fight against gender-based violence, both from a funding perspective and human capital perspective and deployment of police in the right areas?
Yes. I mean, you would have seen a lot of reinforcement in terms of deployment of more police, in terms of the work that's been done by the department led by Minister Cele. And I would say that part of it is a product of the campaigning posture of the ANC, including our ANC Women's League. So I would say that it's not often that you find a league of an organization that marches against government. And our Women's League has been doing that, rightfully so, precisely because it's an area of concern for society. So we will escalate that work and, of course, allow also our deployees in government to do what the Lekgotla has directed should be done in as far as crime, but in particular the area that you are speaking to.
Yeah, as a gender activist, I just need your view, Mahlengi, from an ANC perspective, but also from you as a young woman.
I'm
financial
definitely not young, but thank you.
Financial independence. for women is very important,
Yes.
especially in rural South Africa, where if there's domestic violence, a woman would have no other option because and they say don't go, and what you're going to do, and there's no option. How do you view that? What can be done to enable and empower our women, both young and old, particularly in rural South Africa, so they can be dependent on themselves? I know there are a number of projects in the agriculture sector that are focusing 100% on women, but what do you think more can be done to boost the independence, financial independence of our women?
Well, you've already spoken about the agriculture one, and it's crucial because the rural economy largely relies on a strong agricultural base, and we just need to, again, prioritize women and prioritize young women in our programs. And of course, the number of other youth and employment initiatives that we certainly expect the president will actually go to town, speaking about how we improve the economic position and economic participation of young people in our economy. Young women should be an area of immediate concern. So it's really at different levels in terms of the different economic sectors to try and harvest the power of the rural economy so that women can be self-reliant.
Yeah. Let's talk about youth and unemployment. The bulk of those who are unemployed in our country are young people. Should we expect the president to be more forceful around about what exactly can be done? My colleague Gareth Edwards and my boss, managing editor John Bailey, we drove down from Johannesburg from Tuesday, and we were stopping in these smaller towns along the route instead of going to the major towns, like we normally do, just to get a sense, And one contribution came from a young man called Thabo in Tromsburg. He says, we have nothing here as young people. We are asking the president to give us hope in terms of youth employment, especially in a small town like Tromsburg in the Free State. What do you think young people should look forward to hearing tonight from the president? What have you as the ANC resolved to ask government to do in terms of youth unemployment?
So the matter of youth unemployment, I really believe will receive serious attention. That is our hope as the ANC, for the reasons that wide-ranging resolutions have been made to that effect. The second one that I do wish to speak to is a focus on youth entrepreneurship, because if we don't do so and rely on public sector employment and rely on a shrinking private sector employment, the private sector has been shedding jobs and retrenching. And for that reason, we can't just rely on public sector employment as well as the private sector employment base that has been shrinking. We really need to step up efforts at getting young people to be gainfully self-employed. That will require municipalities that are functional, that can help to create a necessary environment. They may not be able to absorb every young person in a particular municipality, such as the area that you are referring to,
Tromsburg.
Yes, but municipalities, when governed well, are able to create an enabling environment for a range of youth-absorbing activities. So that will be one of those. The last one, exploring. This is the ANC saying, exploring a national youth service program, going back to skilling young people using the National Youth Service Program. That will be one of the things that we're going to be looking and listening carefully whether the president and the cabinet have looked at.
Okay. The other aspect that is not lost on many South Africans is that this State of the Nation address comes at a very critical time, not just for the country in terms of all the challenges that are very well known to our people, like the energy crisis, in unemployment and stuff, but it also comes just over a year or so before the next general elections. Now, the governing party's fortunes in recent elections has been declining, including in the local government elections of 2021. Hence, we've seen the rise, the mushrooming of these new multi-party coalition governments in metros like Tshwane, like Joburg, like Ekurhuleni, Gqeberha, and also to some extent eThekwini as well. Now, to what extent will this State of the Nation address from the ANC perspective, what do you expect the president to be setting the tone for as groundwork for you as the ANC for the elections next year?
Well, the first point to make is we are going to the 2024 general election to win the election. And we believe we will claw back given the programs that we are going to be rolling out.
And Mahlengi, this is not spin. You are not spinning.
No,
this.
It's not.
You have full confidence.
It's not, because that is what we're angling for. It's as simple as that. As a party, we're aiming to win and to retain our majority where we have it, and to contest the spaces where we are being challenged. Yes, the reality of coalitions is there. It's going to be there for a long time as our democracy matures. But we're not angling for coalitions. We are aiming for that. The coalition strategy discussion in the ANC is underway, and I'm certain that we should be able to share that at the appropriate time.
Okay, let me ask my question very quickly, briefly, as we conclude.
Yeah.
To what extent will this awareness you've just said that you have as a governing party influence, or would have influenced, what the president is going to tell the nation tonight?
I suspect so. He's the president of the ANC as well. It's very clear on what the marching orders are, but we don't want to conflate the party and the state, and I was saying this to 702 this morning, and so we allow government to express as it should express.
Okay, Mahlengi, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. That's the national spokesperson of the ANC. I refer to her as the new national spokesperson because for all these years we've been used to Pule Mabe, but she's taken over now. That's Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri, and it's the first time I've had the honor and the privilege of interviewing here on eNCA. There you have it, Heidi Jokos in our studios in Hyde Park. From an ANC perspective, their hopes are in terms of what the president might outline tonight here at the State of the Nation address. Over to you, Heidi, and good afternoon.
Thank you so much for that, Bradan. I must say that it's going to be a very important topic that the president touches on when it comes to gender-based violence, given the scourge that we have been seeing, not just over the last couple of years, but just this year alone. Let's go to a quick ad break. We'll be back after this. Do stay with eNCA.